First of all, thank you so much for all of you for staying this afternoon for the last presentation for day one of our eLFA conference. This study that I am going to present to you is actually part of the study that I worked with Dr. Cheung, who's the first presenter at this particular session. So if you were here with us at the beginning since 3:55, thank you so much for your support. You will be able to see this is actually the second part of our research study that we worked together. And through this short presentation, I would like to share with you a little bit more about how did we help the students to develop their collaborative learning skills with the research project that we have that Dr. Cheung has shared with you just now. However, for those of you who may have just joined us right now, I will also go through the design process of our research project very briefly. So at any point of time, if you feel that you have a question, please go ahead and put your questions in the chat group, and then I will try to address that as soon as I could when I see the notification sign on the Zoom panel here. So the title of this research that I would like to share with you is actually using Padlet to facilitate primary school students' development of collaborative learning skills in a writing classroom in Singapore. So the purpose of this particular study, we are really looking in, this is actually part of a larger study, and we are just using a portion of the data that we have today that we'd like to share with you about some of the students' perception about collaborative learning. How do they perceive that collaborative learning is being used or being experienced in their own classroom in a primary 4 English writing class? Primary 4 would be also equivalent to 4th grade, so our students are typically around 10 years old. They have been writing for a little bit more, and then from primary 1 to primary 2, they are writing short passages, and then they may be having a lot of oral presentations or discussion. By the time that we reach primary 3 and primary 4, this is where we are really expecting the students to accelerate in their writing of their composition. So it's also a good timing for us as a research team to be able to work with the teachers in the Singapore schools to find out how we could better facilitate their learning process about how to write. This is actually a part of the bigger study from the social, cognitive, and motivational and learning approach. As Dr. Cheung have mentioned in the first presentation, we are using a validated instrument that is designed or derived from Pinterest MSLQ, and we have another newer instrument that is called SDLCL, and using that to try to collect information related to students' motivation and also their perceptions about self-directed learning and collaborative learning. The focal point for today's presentation that I'm sharing with you is actually on a group of primary 4 students in one particular school, and what are their experience in using a Padlet to develop their collaborative learning skills in this school. Okay, the research questions that we're looking for, we are really looking at the students providing feedback to their peers. I will go through the whole process later on, but specifically, I'm actually pinpointing to the last part of the research study where the students have written their English composition already. And this is the part where they are trying to read their friends' composition and also trying to provide comments to each other, to talk about constructive comments, providing feedback to help their friends to be able to further improve and revise their composition. And also towards the end, the quantitative part that we're looking for from the survey instrument is about the students' perception about collaborative learning with and without technology. Although this is EFLA, we talk about e-learning a lot, and with the current pandemic situation, blended learning is part and parcel of our life. We still want to see whether collaborative learning is being developed and being honed in a face-to-face classroom without the use of technology as well. So SCML approach is actually about a social activity in the social part, and then the cognitive approach is about the writing influence, the students thinking about planning, organizing, writing. The social cognitive approach is defined as follows. We are bringing together elements of cognitive process models of writing and social cultural views, including genre-based approach to the writing instruction. So what we are really trying to do is that when we are helping the students to have this social process and they're actually writing, we want to look into their motivation as well. Okay, how are they motivated to write? Do they feel like they are extrinsically motivated to write? Do they feel like there's actually value in the task that they're working on right now? Okay, in collaborative learning, we are really interested to try to look into the knowledge building discourse. Are they helping each other to construct new knowledge? Are they providing meaningful feedback? Meaningful, constructive feedback and comments to their friends, so that when a particular author of the composition or the writer of the composition have saw the comments from their friends, they will be able to get ideas in how to improve their writing after they have seen the comments. It's very interesting because we follow them to go to the classroom, see how it's being done. I will share a little bit about that because you are really seeing collaborative learning and knowledge creation as they are using, as they are carrying out these activities in the classroom. Okay, the participants that I would like to share with you today, since we're looking at Padlet and the qualitative data, there's a lot of qualitative data that we're looking at. I'm actually focusing on one particular local school. There's about 213 students. Some of them are in the control group, some of them are in the experimental group, where they went through the whole process of the STML approach that we proposed in this research study. So this is actually the whole intervention. What does it look like? Lesson 1 and lesson 2, they actually write the composition. Lesson 3, they repeat the whole process again, and then they go ahead and write a second composition on a different topic using what they have learned about in lesson 1 and lesson 2. So lesson 1 and lesson 2 is sort of like a training. We want to train them to use the facilitation, the scaffolding that we provide to them. To a certain extent, it's also training of our teachers, making sure that the teachers that support our research are also familiarized with what we're doing in the whole SCML process. Then lesson 4 and lesson 5 is where technology is being integrated into this research study. In lesson 4, actually the students would have access to their Grammarly report. Based on the Grammarly report, they will be able to see suggestions from the website, from the platform, and they will be able to decide on whether they would like to agree or accept the recommendations from Grammarly, or they would like to reject, or they would like to do something else. One interesting observation, I'll just sidetrack a little bit over here, although self-directed learning is not part of the focal point for this presentation. So the Grammarly report, for all of you who know, that Grammarly is actually a US-based company. So when we actually generate it, we use a free platform, of course. Then there are a lot of recommendations. It's actually on US spelling. So it's an interesting observation where the students are seeing a lot of these recommendations, and they realize that, oh, just because we received a feedback from an authority, for example, like a reporting that what a report that we have received from Grammarly, they will need to still look through it very carefully by themselves and decide on whether they would accept or reject the recommendation. That's one of the interesting things that we noticed from lesson 4 about self-directed learning. Self-directed learning, the students realize, is no longer about just receiving information as is. Self-directed learning is about receiving the information, understand the information, and try to make sense of it and make their own decision. That's actually a very interesting learning point from our lesson 4. Lesson 5, of course, is the collaborative learning using Padlet to provide peer feedback, and I will share with you some of the examples later on. So usually for a typical writing in a Singapore classroom, we give them pictures. So we give them 3 pictures, and they are supposed to put the 3 pictures together and then try to write a composition. This is actually some sample pictures that we do provide to the students as they are writing the composition for lesson 3, 4, and 5. This is the scaffolding. This is sort of an example of what a story mountain that we provide to the students. Some schools would use something that's very similar to what I'm sharing with you right now. Different schools have different customized template to help the students to facilitate their planning process, where they need to look into the orientation, the main events of the story, what is the complication, how did the characters in the story, what is the resolution, solve the problem, how did the characters solve the problem, at the end, how did they go ahead and conclude the story and wrap it up nicely, how does the story end. This is actually a scaffold that we provide to the students both in lesson 1 and 2 and lesson 3 to help them to facilitate their writing process. Preliminary findings about collaborative learning. I would like to just go into the collaborative the lesson finding right away. I am looking at the time because when I'm on the screen mode, I cannot see the time. Okay, so we are looking at the collaborative learning and collaborative learning with ICT over here. So these are some of the sample questions that we ask. This is actually a 28-item survey, and then each of the 7 constructs have 4 items. So within the 2 constructs that are related to collaborative learning and collaborative learning with ICT, these are some of the items that we ask. My classmate and I are actively sharing ideas. We are contributing ideas to each other, and we are actively discussing our ideas online. So we do hope to try to capture their perception about how collaborative learning is being conducted, or how did they experience collaborative learning in an online environment using Padlet with their iPad, or in a face-to-face environment as well. Okay, results. Okay, I'll go very quickly to the results. Very simple quantitative results that I just want to share with you from this school with the 5 classes. As you can see, there are significant differences. Okay, for a collaborative learning environment, for a control group, it's actually a 3.69 out of a 5-point scale. For the experimental group, it's actually 4.09 for the out of a 5-point scale. For collaborative learning with ICT, the control group feels that it's about at 2.91, so it's sort of neutral. Collaborative learning with ICT for the experimental group is at 3.76. When you look at a T-score, you know there's actually significant differences. So what does that mean? So that's where I actually want to jump into the Padlet wall to show you what have we done. In the Padlet wall, I'll just skip to the next slide first. These are the guiding questions that we have. I'll come back to show you later. This is what the Padlet wall looks like. Okay, we have a lot of students. They, if you look at the main picture over here, these are actually the compositions that they have written in lesson 3 for the topic, and then based on the feedback that they have received from the Grammarly report in lesson 4, they have revised their composition. And after they revised the composition, many thanks to our research team, the research team actually helped to type the composition and posted it on the Padlet wall. One of the reasons is because time. We don't have enough time for the students to sit down and type their composition and put it on the Padlet wall. So our research team actually go ahead and help us to do that. And the Padlet wall is ready. And then in lesson 5, they go ahead and read their friend's composition, and they provide comments, such as the small boxes that you're seeing over here. They have some shorter comments, they have some longer comments. I'll give you some examples, additional examples of comments later on. Okay, how did we guide them? How did we guide the students to write the comment? We went through teacher training. In this whole intervention, we didn't really want to step in too much when they are actually having this intervention. The English teachers of that class actually will take on the main role to provide instructions, provide guidance. We're there to help, we're there to support, but the instructions are being given by the teachers. And of course, we provided training to the teachers so they know what exactly they will need to do, and also share with them what are some of the potential areas that they will need to provide additional scaffolding and facilitation to the students. These are actually the 3 guiding questions that we provide to the students. We already know that asking the students to give them feedback to their peers may not be as easy as we think. They will probably give you some very interesting comments like, good job, nice work, and they're not specific, they're not constructive. So as a result, we actually give them guiding questions. Question 1, what do you like the best about the composition? Is it the vocabulary? Is it easy to follow? Do you like the ideas? Is the ending very interesting? Things like that. We give them some examples. Are there any ideas that are not clear? Please give examples, specific examples about why the ideas are not clear. Then the last question is, write down 1 suggestions that you have for how the author can improve this composition. So in an ideal situation, we do hope that every composition will have 3 comments. So it's from the same student, same reviewer, and there should be 1 comment on question 1, 1 comment on question 2, 1 comment on question 3. Well, as you can see from the example that I share with you, it's not as idealistic as we think, but of course we have good results. We have actually captured a lot of good comments from our students as well, but you still have those nice story, good story. We also activated this star rating for the students, so they can actually go ahead and click on how many stars do you rate the compo, and then so while they are reviewing their friends' composition in the lesson observation, in some of the lessons I was there, it was very interesting because the reviewer is reviewing the author's compo and then give a 3-star rating. And then the author was like, saw the 3-star and said, why did you give me 3-star when you tell me the story is very good? Why you're not giving me a 5-star? So it's a very interesting way that you can see there's online communication on Padlet, and there's also face-to-face communication as they are working on this together. Oh, by the way, just to clarify, when we collect the data, this is actually before the pandemic. So we're actually in the classroom. The students have their Padlet, but they're actually working together in the classroom. Okay. Some examples. I would like to share with you some examples of the peer comments. This is actually a set of comments from one student. This is where I mean by the ideal situation. Okay, where I have one student who really follow the three guiding questions, and as they are following the three guiding questions, they will go ahead and share that this is what they like, this is what they don't like. This is how I can further improve. Oh, thank you for the reminder. I have 5 more minutes. Okay, so this is one set of what you can see. The students really follow the question, their guiding questions that we have provided, and they provide constructive feedback. What are the others? Okay, we have a pretty good percentage of comments that has been provided like this, that is actually following our three question structure. Others are more interesting. They have like, they would tell you that, hey, your story is very good. However, there's some missing information. We find a lot of missing information. The composition they are supposed to write, they have about, I would say, 40 to 50 minutes to write, but there are portions of the story is missing. So it's like all of a sudden you found a hamster. The next thing you know, the hamster is gone. Then the next thing you know, the hamster is back again. There's no very good transition, and we see a lot of those comments. Okay, so this is some of the comments that you can see, and you can also see that some of them are actually applying what their teachers have taught them. Like this particular green comment over here, you could work on the main character's FTRA. This is actually what the teacher have taught them. When you're writing, you need to focus on the feelings, the thoughts, the reactions, and the actions. So they are actually trying to apply what their teacher have taught them as well. Others, I really want to show you all these interesting comments. Of course, we have a pretty large number of these, like good job, nice compo, not very specific comments. Why do I want to share all of these with you? Because when we're looking at the discussions that is going on in class, these are some of the main parts that we are able to sort of like conclude from the comments. The ones that in green is more for teachers. The teachers really have to plan the activities and manage the class, because at the beginning it was quite, they're so excited, so they're actually quite chaotic. But the main thing is the students are engaged. They are really engaged in this activity. They are motivated to learn. The teachers also observe that they are very willing to revise their composition, because once they have received the feedback from their peers, it's meaningful feedback to them. And they are willing to go ahead and revise the compo. Not a lot of them are able to do that because of this issue of time. They may not have enough time to go ahead and rewrite or revise the whole compo. However, because of this excitement and the support of the collaborative learning and the peer feedback from their friends, we are still seeing a lot of students who are more willing to go ahead and more motivated to go ahead and improve on their writing. Okay, these are some of the things that I also would like to just very quickly touch on. Collaborative learning, it's working in the classroom. We do hope that with time, if time allows, like what is happening to our presentation today as well, if time allows, the students will be able to provide more meaningful feedback, and also they can go ahead and have more time to revise on their composition as well. Okay, with that, I'll actually conclude my presentation. If you are interested, please go ahead and send me an email with regards to any questions that you have. And also, I would like to thank the Singapore Ministry of Education for the support of this research project. And you can feel free to go ahead and ask any questions right now. I actually want to open for Q&A. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for your presentation. Are there any questions from the floor? If not, then may I ask a questions? You said that you have used your development in the regular classroom, right? Do you expect is there any difference if it is in the currently very common virtual classroom, such as using Zoom to learning? Do you expect there are any differences when using your tools or your or can it be helpful or useful in when learning with the Zoom?
I think that's a very valid question in this day and age. And when we are developing this particular research study, we didn't really have that in mind. But looking back right now, with the use of Padlet or any technology, even the Grammarly report that we use in this particular research study, I think it will be a great complementary tool for any of the teachers that is actually conducting home-based learning or virtual learning or blended learning or even completely online learning, because a lot of the times like today, we are actually restricting ourselves on one platform, on the Zoom platform. And if I want my students to talk, we need to take turns. Or like, for example, right now, I have about 22 of you over here right now. Not everyone is comfortable to talk. So if we have a separate platform like Padlet, then learners will be able to go ahead and post their learning. They can actually teachers can keep track of their learning by asynchronous or synchronous format. If for students who actually would like to have more time to work on their composition for their writing, they can have time to develop their composition. We can actually extend our learning from a 35-minute lesson to, for example, like a 2 to 3 day activity. So we talk about, when this morning during the plenary session, actually, Dr. Toro talked about personalized decade. We are really looking into a new decade with online learning. We are really having personalized learning, differentiated learning, and having these tools or having this pedagogy, it will actually help our learners to pace themselves according to their needs. If they need more time, they will be able to complete the task with additional time. Then friends, peers will continue to be able to collaborate with each other and provide constructive comments. But of course, the teachers will have a pretty daunting task to go ahead and plan and manage a learning environment that is similar to what we're proposing right now.
Yes, I agree with you. Yes, thank you once again for your presentation and sharing.